Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Chatting Blues. Before we get into tonight's episode, could you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and leave a comment in the comment section. And if you are a Blues fan and watching this, please do me a massive favour and hit the subscribe button. We're on the way to 1,000 subscribers now, so it just all helps the channel. So after the defeat against Albion on Saturday, we move on to Friday. I went to the game on Saturday myself. And like I always say on my videos, it's really hard to analyse a game when you're actually at the game. Do you know what I mean? But overall, I thought, listen, we matched Albion all over the pitch. Just one lacking concentration, which cost us the game. But overall, I thought we played all right and unlucky not to get a point. We've got a guest coming on today from the Wednesday week, I think it's called. We're going to get Stevie on from that channel, and we're going to talk about Friday's game, which, in my opinion, now, definitely from a Blues perspective, has become a massive game. Do you know what I mean? If you'd asked me this, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I wouldn't have thought this is like a bit of a 6-pointer, and we're going to get Stevie's view on how he's looking at the game on Friday and just where they're at the moment. So I'm going to bring Stevie on now. You okay, Stevie?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, mate. So we'll jump straight into it, Steve. So, from an outsider's point of view, just quickly from when you got promotion, see, when teams slip out of the championship, like championship teams completely forget about teams what go down into League One. So you're kind of off the radar for a couple of seasons. And we only check when it's coming to the end of the season. Do you know what I mean? See who's like maybe coming up and we're going to play next season. And you was 4-0 down against Peterborough, weren't you, first leg? Then you had that amazing 5-0 win, to get the aggregate score, and then you get into the playoff final. Josh Windass scores that late goal, and I was thinking, oh, here we go, Sheffield Wednesday are back in the championship. Always up there or thereabouts, top 6, and quite a big club. And I was a little bit gutted, but just give me the watered down version. What's gone on since then, Stevie? Because it's mad because I thought they're going to be on the rise again now Wednesday, and it just went completely tits up, didn't it, Steve?
It's if you wanted to get a team in the championship that would be a soap opera or a soap story or a Netflix series, there's one or two that would be up there, but I don't think there's anybody that would be able to touch Sheffield Wednesday over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years. Just to sort of pre-frame things, we had a chairman that chucked a lot of money at trying to get out the championship back in 2015-16. We got to the playoff final. We were on the cusp of doing some big things and getting back into the Premier League, and then lots of mismanagement at top level resulted in a points deduction. We've had a relegation, we've had a false dawn getting to the playoffs and then coming back up the following season after not making it against Sunderland. But as you've just touched upon there, the Peterborough game, and then the what we call the miracle of Hillsborough. Sort of, we were riding the crest of a wave coming off the Wembley game, and for a lot of the Wednesday fans, as good as Wembley was, and the lead up to it, nothing will ever touch that night at Hillsborough. But the moment we got back to Sheffield, we were already thinking about the next season. We were already talking about what was going to happen, and our chairman Dapon Chansiri was at the parade at the City Hall, making noises on the bus, saying he wants to push for playoffs. So everybody starts speculating. At that point, we had a manager in Darren Moore that amassed 96 points last season, and we were under the impression that he was going to stick around. And then it's just been bombshell after bombshell from that point on. So we lost Moore just prior to pre-season, which put us, I think people were saying, it's probably put us about 4 or 5 weeks behind. We brought in Xisco Munoz from abroad. He'd got Watford out of the league a couple of years ago during COVID, so came with a bit of pedigree of getting teams up, and we were expecting to, having spoken to Watford fans, expecting to play expansive football, being progressive and being interesting and exciting to watch, and it just didn't work out like that. It quickly became apparent pre-season that He was going to play counter-attacking football. We started the season against Southampton. I think we had 27% of possession in that first game of the season on TV, and that was one of our better performances under him. We were expecting to sign players. We wanted to get people over the line. It wasn't happening. We signed a group of unknowns in people like Delgado, Masaba, Gassama. We brought a goalkeeper in, Devis Vasquez from AC Milan. And, on paper, some of those players looked like they were going to do bits. It quickly transpired that very few of those players were going to do bits, and we've been on the back foot ever since day one, really. Things hadn't got much better, and ultimately we had to say goodbye to the previous incumbent in our managerial seat. Chisco wasn't the guy for us, and he left his successor with a mountain to climb, really.
And you know what stands out from that Cisco era? Do you remember the interview that Chanziri done with Cisco? I think it was when he announced him as manager. Absolute quality gold, that is. No one's seen it. If anyone's watching this now and they haven't seen that, is it when he introduced him as a manager?
He did. He introduced him. He introduced him at a press conference as the manager. And one thing about Sheffield Wednesday is that we don't seem to have a board. We don't have a committee. It's Chancery. It's a couple of other people. I think if you were looking at the hierarchy, the head chef is third or fourth in command. So there's nobody up there making decisions. It's Chancery and a couple of other people. We lost our COO pre-season, a guy called Liam Dooley, who left us to go down to Shrewsbury, I believe it is, if I remember rightly. So things weren't great. The Chancery's turned up, and bless his heart, he spent 10-15 minutes berating Carlton Palmer, because Carlton Palmer had come out and had been quite staunch about the removal of Darren Moore. Palmer and Moore, I think, are quite good friends. So Palmer had come out and made some noises. Chancery decided he was going to defend himself and the decisions that he'd made by calling Carlton Palmer Leighton Palmer. I don't think they'd ever met. So he got the name wrong, and then went on a big 5-6 minute diatribe where it left Chisco just sitting there looking absolutely dumbfounded. It was as if he was sort of sitting there going, "What the bloody hell am I doing here?" So it wasn't a great start to his managerial reign. And as time went on, Chisco's interviews became more and more sort of negative. He became more and more drawn. He'd gone from being quite a sharp-looking fellow with a decent hairdo and sharply dressed. He wore the gear right, but as time went on, his hair got worse. He started to look older, and it was downhill all the way from there. So.
Yeah. And what about this new manager, Danny Rohl? So he started off really good, didn't he? Was it January or December?
No, he actually came in sort of mid to late October, so he's had a bit of a run at it. Now, for people that don't and aren't aware of Danny Rohl, his pedigree is Southampton. So he's previously he was the assistant under Hassan Huttle at Southampton. He's managed in the Red Bull system, and his previous job was the German national team's assistant manager. Now, he was in the frame over the summer. He comes with a real pedigree. And at the start of the season, at the start of his sort of his managerial stint, people were talking about the fact that he'd gone from managing and working with people like Manuel Neuer, Thomas Muller, Lewandowski. He was also at Bayern Munich, by the way. And he's coming to Wednesday, and he's attempted to implement this gegenpress, if you like, style of German football. We play a 4-2-3-1, and when we're at it, we play on the front foot. He's transformed some bang average players to some very, very good players. We wanted to get over the line in terms of sort of getting to January and then giving him a transfer window to have a look at, because alongside him, we've brought in a backroom staff that is absolutely phenomenal on paper. We brought in an analyst from Man United. We brought in Chris Powell, whose last jobs were for England and Tottenham. We brought in a recruitment guy from Man United and Arsenal, who previously worked with Wenger and Ferguson. We paid compensation for the assistant manager, and we brought the goalkeeping coach from Arsenal. Now, you put that on paper, it looks like we've got a hell of a setup. But we got to January, and it's quickly become very apparent that we've got all the show, but we haven't got much go in terms of the transfer activity that we've been able to do. It's been a real barren sort of 4 weeks, and we were expecting more over the transfer window. We were expecting players in. There were noises around bringing a striker in. There were noises about being willing to pay £30,000 a week for a lone striker, and the only one that we were linked to, with due respect, was Scott Hogan. So that's the sort of level we were operating at. So it's difficult to say what's happening and what's going wrong at the moment. But the last 2 games haven't been great at all.
Yeah. Just getting a little bit current now, Stevie. Like, so he did start off all right, Danny Rohl, and I was looking at Sheffield Wednesday, and at one point I was thinking they're going to get out of this, Sheffield Wednesday. Looking at your recent results, what's gone wrong here? Because you lost last night 4-1 to Coventry. Previous to that, 4-0 Huddersfield. I mean, that's a massive game, that. Do you know what I mean? So that's a massive game. To lose 4-0. I mean, 0-0 against Watford, it's not a bad result, is it? And then, I suppose, drawing at home to Coventry is not a bad result. God, I bet you're sick of playing Coventry, you.
So we played Coventry 4 times in the space of 4 weeks. So the draw was actually a Friday night game in the FA Cup, and we were all right. I think Coventry have been a decent side. You know, I think I've pretty much seen all of the sides that we played, and the standout teams. Southampton, I think you've hovered over the Southampton game there. We lost 4-0 at Southampton. They absolutely destroyed us. And it's one of those where you say, where we are at the moment, you hold your hands up. We're not a Southampton level team. The feeling amongst Wednesdayites is, if we can get results at home and pick up points at home, anything that we get away is a bonus. But the problem is we've as we said, Coventry have been a bit of a sort of a sticking point with us this year. They've absolutely played us off the park 2 or 3 times. I don't hold too much stock in the game last night, because we played the kids. There were a lot of academy players in there, and there were 9 changes that were made. But the big one was Huddersfield. We were absolutely convinced that we were going to Huddersfield and we were going to turn them over, and we just collapsed. They scored 4 goals in 12 minutes, and we folded like you won't believe. I take my little girl to the games with me. She's only 9. And the 3rd goal went in. She was in floods of tears. We were literally at the side of the Huddersfield fans, and I never leave games early. I walked out at 3-0 because it was just unbearable. Yeah, I've got up your home form at the moment. So how's everyone feeling now? Like in terms of relegation, and how are you feeling about Danny Rohl? Because he looks like he's aged as well. He does. I think he's the youngest manager in the Championship, but he's gone from being 34 and looking 30 to being 34 and looking 45. I think there's an internal feeling that he's a little bit frustrated that he's not been backed in the way that I suspect he was expecting to be. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if he's been told things by our eccentric chairman that would suggest that he was expecting to have more players and more activity over the line. We're crying out for a striker. That's not come. We've let pretty much one of our talismanic players in George Byers go to Blackpool. We've not replaced him necessarily. We've got Jeff Hendrick on loan from Newcastle. We tried sending him back and they didn't want him, so we're stuck with Jeff Hendrick. And that's no slight on Jeff Hendrick. He is what he is. But if we don't want him and Newcastle don't want him, he's stuck with us because we've committed to paying his wages, and Newcastle didn't want to because of their financial situation. So we're literally paying for a player that's not going to play for us. Even in spite of everything, there was a genuine feeling amongst a lot of the fans that in the position we were in, when we kind of said if we could get to the transfer window, get to January, within sort of 4 or 5 points, 6 points max, there was a chance that we'd turn it around and get out of it. And we actually did that. We got to a point where we were going into Huddersfield. If we'd have won the game against Huddersfield, I think it would have put us within 3 points with a game in hand or something like that. We'd have not been far off sort of overtaking them. But it's been a 6-point swing, and as it stands now, I think we're 8 points from safety. We've got minus 28 goal difference, so it's an absolute mountain to climb. But I think the issue is people are starting to see that the strain of it all is starting to tell in the manager, and he's, even when we were bottom of the league, and even though we've been stuck in the relegation zone for the duration of his management, there was never any sort of negative feeling towards the guy. And I've been watching Sheffield Wednesday since the mid-'80s, and he's as popular manager as we've ever had. But I think people are resigned to the fact that we'll do well to hold on to him, because I think he wants to go on to bigger and better things, and he will go on to bigger and better things. Absolutely. The general feeling was we'll enjoy him while we can. But I think people are now sort of feeling that they're not necessarily widespread, but there's one or two noises that are starting to be made that this isn't the job for him, and people are starting to see that he's getting frustrated, and then the finger starts being pointed. In spite of everything, they're questioning the decisions he's made in terms of playing Liam Palmer in midfield when he's not necessarily a midfielder, or picking certain strikers above other players, and the team selection hasn't helped because we've been losing games, and that's sort of bearing a strain a little bit on the sort of the goodwill of some of our fans, and it's starting to get a little bit restless, shall we say.
Yeah. And just turning quickly to Friday night's game. So this has become a massive game for us, is that, Stevie? Do you know what I mean? And like we just mentioned before the preview, I wasn't expecting this to be such a big game, probably for both teams, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. So, even Blues fans now are starting to, even though we've done all right under Tony Mowbray, we've done really well, actually. It's been a real big pickup since Rooney's been sacked. And, so, everything was going fine. And we put a good performance in, but we've come away with no points against West Brom. And it's put us in a pretty, we're looking over our shoulders again now. If you look at that table there, I mean, I'm just looking at you there, 23. This has got to be a must-win for you, Steve, Friday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But every game at the moment, we're going into every game saying it's a must-win. And even when we don't win those games, people are sort of feeling that, we've still got the manager that can come in, that can potentially turn it round. I think we're getting to the end of that line now. As it stands, I think we've got 16 games left. And if we don't win Friday, we'll have 15 games to turn 11 points round. I think it is, to get ourselves out of it if QPR pull away. And the problem is, if teams such as yourself, your Stokes, your Blackburns that are down and around it, if they keep winning, it reduces the number of teams that we can catch. So it basically becomes a 4-horse race, if you like. Now we've taken 1 point from Huddersfield. We beat QPR. We've beaten Rotherham. We've beaten Stoke. We've lost to yourselves. So when we're talking about picking up points amongst the teams around us, we haven't actually laid a glove on anybody to say we've won 6, 9, 12 points against those teams that are around us to close the gap. So on Friday night, based on the last 2 games, we're not just losing games, we're losing games and we're collapsing. Huddersfield weren't 4-0 better than us, but even though I say that, nobody can complain because that 12-minute spell was that bad. They deserve to win the game 4-0, and if we don't start picking up points quickly and staying in touch with that, those teams above us, it's going to be a long second half of this season.
So again, looking forward to Friday now after the last couple of 3 results for you. What realistically do you think is going to happen? How do you see it playing out?
It's really difficult
are you worried about any about Blues or any of our players? Do you know
what? I'm more worried about our players, and I know that sounds daft to say. I'm genuinely worried about our players. We're shipping soft goals. We brought a goalkeeper in who I don't necessarily think is all that. He'd done all right at Oxford on loan. But he's not pulled any trees up, and he's certainly no better than what we've got at the moment. So I do worry about our players. You've also just signed Alex Pritchard, who's is a little bit of a bogey player, if you like, for us. He shithoused us a little bit when we played Sunderland in the playoffs.
Just quickly talking about bogey players, is Barry Bannon injured? Please say he's injured.
He was carrying a niggle. He's carrying a niggle, but he did play through it on Saturday. He wasn't involved last night in the cup, but I think that was just as a precaution thing. I would be expecting to see Barry Bannon play on Friday night.
Oh, nightmare.
This is probably a good time to tell you that my missus and all the in-laws are Villa fans as well.
Yeah, we had Vyman, didn't we, on Saturday score as well. You just couldn't make it. Do you know when you come on the pitch, guys? You come on the pitch with about 20 minutes left, and I said to my pal, was in the ground. I said to my pal, he's going to score. He said, "Don't say that. Everything you say comes true." You know, and then everyone was going, "You guys." And and I was thinking, "Oh, shut up, man, shut up," because it just winds them up, don't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so the goal goes in because it's at the other end. I didn't even know who scored it until we come out of the ground, and I've got the scores up, and I said, "Dave, that Vyman scored." He went, "I told you." He said, "You shouldn't say things like that before the game." I said, "I can't help it, can I? I'm not a fucking Vyman." No. So getting back to Friday. So, go on then. We'll finish on this, Steve. Give us a score prediction then for Friday, mate.
I'm gonna be really boring, and I'm gonna sit on the fence, and I'm gonna say we're gonna draw, and I think it'll be a 1-1. I think we're gonna draw 1-1. Despite everything, I talked about it earlier. I think our home form is the only thing that's going to keep us in touch, and with that, we had a really strong showing against Hull. New Year's Day on the telly. I think we were very good then. Even though we only drew with Watford 0-0, we absolutely hammered them. I think we had between 60 and 70% possession. We absolutely played them off the park, and they were hanging on. So the Coventry game at home, the Boxing Day game, wasn't great, but they're a very good side. But recently we are all right at home. We do okay. But it's definitely dependent on whether or not we've got players that are going to be turning up and putting in a shift, because there's one or two of them at the minute that do feel like it's down tools. So we need some big showings, but I can just feel a 1-1 draw just to sort of stop the rot of the losses at the minute.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you know, I'm feeling quite confident. I am. I think we're going to bounce back from that defeat against West Brom. I really do fancy us, and your goalkeeper as well. You did mention about your goalkeeper, and I was looking at him earlier. He doesn't look that clever, does he? Do you know what I mean?
No.
So I can see us scoring a few goals. Look, I fancy us to win 3-1. I do, Steve. I really do, man. I fancy us to go in and get a result, 3 points.
If not so much last night, as we sit here now, the FA Cup game, not so much that, but the performance on Saturday. If you'd have said that to me this time last week, I'd have said no chance. But it wouldn't surprise me at all. We're very, very fragile at the moment, and if there's one time you're getting us at the right time, so we'll see what happens. Yeah,
100%. No, thanks ever so much for coming on, Steve. Really appreciate your time, man.
No problem at all, mate. No problem. Anytime.
Lovely. Thanks ever so much. Now, before everyone goes, if you can do me a massive favour, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and leave a comment in the comment section. I think Blues are going to get on Friday, and also about the West Brom game as well, because I didn't do a preview for that. So your hope's still up there for Friday, because like I've just mentioned, man, this is a massive game Friday for both teams. So, do me a massive favour, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, leave a comment. All have a great night and keep right on.